right, Cannonball Nation. Wednesday night, man. Good to see you guys all here halfway through the week. We got a killer show coming up. I'm your engineer, Chris. 50 floors below the street level at Cycle Source Magazine here in the Retro Cycle Studios. Hey, man, we're going to listen to some blues here while we're coming into the show, but we're also reading your chat messages, so go ahead and throw your rider number up or show us where you're from. We'll give you a little shout out. Stick around. We're just about 6.5 minutes before the clock strikes even and we go live with Cannonball Chronicles. Nancy Weems, what's up? Bug Killer, how you doing, buddy? Benny Latch, Tyler, Texas. Love Tyler, Texas, man. Daniel Cruz, Puerto Rico in the house. Man, it never ceases to amaze me when we see our Chopper Town family out there coming in from all over the world. Smokeout crew, miss y'all. Absolutely. Smokeout. No smokeouts killing me. Number 64, Dave Carrier, North Dakota watching. Welcome, Dave. Glad you're here to watch the show. Missy, on the road, checking in. Hey, we're just 5 minutes away, man. Make sure you grab a cold one, sit back. We're going to have a killer show tonight. Can't wait to get to this episode of Cannonball Chronicles. Stick around, 5 minutes to go. All right, look at that. Team Not a Chance, 108, West Philly, Indiana. Here, kick back with a cold IPA, and Dennis Frame, 282 in the house. What's up, Dennis? Chach, what's up, baby? Good to see you up here, man. I'm going to be back in Texas in no time. Keep it warm for me till I get there. right, guys, it looks like the clock on the wall says 2 minutes until airtime, but we were a little late today, so we're going to pull this one out of the station, get it up onto the tracks, and go live with Cannonball Chronicles. Here we go.
Just don't pay attention to the screen. Hey there, Cannonball Nation. It's Jason Sims, and I'm coming to you live on this Hump Day Wednesday. Beautiful day here in Sturgis, South Dakota. Been really just kind of a boring day for me, I guess. No, not really. Been busy. Been really, really busy. Working on some Cannonball stuff more and more every day as we're getting ready for the September run. Joined this week with my co-host, Robbie. Robbie, what's happening, buddy?
Hey, Jason. What day is it? What day is it, Jason?
It's hump day.
Hump day, which means what?
Hump day.
Motorcycle Cannonball Chronicles.
Except for today feels like a Monday to me.
Why is that?
I don't know. Every day feels like a Monday lately. Just endless Groundhog Day, I guess. Every day is feeling the same.
Blur's Day.
So what have you been up to this week? What have you been up to?
I'm back in Sturgis now for a few weeks, getting ready for the Sturgis Rally up here. Just enjoying the beautiful weather out here.
You playing with any bikes this week or just answering the telephone?
I haven't had any time yet. I did mess around with some vehicles yesterday. I did pull out if people were watching social media, I pulled out a blast from the past, the old Cannonball ambulance motorcycle chaser, an old motorcycle sweep car that we had that previously used to be a ambulance that we had converted into a sweep truck. Can hold 6 motorcycles on it, diesel. Thing's a beast. It's got a lot of good stories, a lot of bad stories. But I pulled it out of the weeds yesterday. It's been about 2 years since it got started and had any love to it. So threw some juice in it and a little bit of petro and got the thing fired up and grabbed my dog, and we kind of went for a cruise in the thing.
I see a lot of familiar faces tonight from social media. I see Cole is out there. He's watching. Dave Courier, a couple other people, some Choppertown people, which is really nice. We're glad the Choppertown folks are joining us here at the Retro Cycle Studio. Been a pretty exciting week for me. I got a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to try and downsize my operation a little bit. I'm not going out of business, but I just want to make things a little smaller and more manageable. So I've been working on all that kind of stuff around here, getting bikes out. We got a couple more engines out this week. I had a guy here from Florida picking up an engine. We did an engine and trans swap, and I'm finishing up some projects around here. So we've been pretty busy. I had a 29 motor go out, a 27 motor go out, and it's been crazy. It's been
very
nice
nice
up here.
Very nice. You ready to get rid of some of them parts then? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I sold the ones on your cart, all your parts.
Oh wait, what?
Yeah, you didn't want that stuff, did you?
I want more stuff.
You want more stuff? Well, come on down.
You can't have too many parts.
Isn't that how the commercial goes? Come on down. We got great deals. Right here is this is Tom Banks's 1912 motor. We just had to build a new setup for the stand to run it in the test bench. So it's just gutted and assembled for height and width and all that stuff. So, we had to put the new motor mounts in over here and, there. I got to get used to working backwards on the camera. I have Gumby helping me, So he's gotten pretty greasy working on stuff. Chris Simmons can really appreciate that. You know, she knows he's kind of a troublemaker too. So we got that going. So
how long you got left on that 12 before we get to finally hear it run?
It's all determined by precision measurements, and when it's done, it'll be done. And hopefully it'll be done in time.
One of them things.
Here's an interesting story.
First time in the parking lot.
We went to Truett and Osborne for flywheels, and they didn't have what we really needed for this. So they sent us blanks, not machined, right out of the castings. And we're going to do our own machine work on them. So it's a daunting task, but we'll get it done.
That's a new little challenge, huh?
Yeah. Well, it's putting Ryan through his paces here. So Ryan's my mechanic at Retrocycle, and very thorough and very precise and all that stuff. So he'll think about it 20 times and cut once. You know, that's how that goes. So hopefully we have some new people joining us tonight who don't really know what the Cannonball is about. So maybe you could fill them in.
Yeah, absolutely. Cannonball, best endurance motorcycle run in the world. This year we're going from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan to South Padre Island. We're going to make a couple of wonderful stops in between. 2-lane back roads of America, no major highways, no major cities, just out there riding the bikes, riding the machines, man versus machine. You know what I'm saying? Just
we're gonna hit the Blue Ridge Highway, I think, at some point. But what I want to know is how many times are we gonna cross the Blue Ridge Highway?
That's a good question. Maybe we'll see a quiz on the thing, huh?
A quiz.
Hint.
Now, where did that idea come from?
Well, it's still not put into fruition yet, but it's something that I'm thinking about just to kind of add this year to all the craziness. Just another little thing. Probably won't be counted against the score, but I am looking at bringing some trivia into this year's Cannonball. You know, we brought it in on last year's event on the cross-country chase, and it was a hit with a lot of people, and it was not a hit with a lot lot
well, I was just going to say, Mike Parsons.
So we're going to do it just
really
for
going to
fun.
enjoy that.
Oh, yeah.
Did you hear what I said? Go ahead.
It'll be something that's totally optional. If I do bring it, it just depends on how much time I got and all that kind of stuff. But I've been digging some stuff up lately, and who knows?
Pay attention, Cannonballers. There may be a quiz.
And there may not be.
Time. It all depends on time, Jason. And we know you got a lot of that. So.
Oh man, I got too much time on my hands. Anybody got out there anything that they want me to do?
Any questions on social media that are relevant to what we've just been talking about?
You know, George Banks says that they're feverishly working away on that bike.
So hurry up.
Yeah, so hurry up.
Robbie, let's talk about a little bit of bad news that we got this week. Good old Chief Blackhawk Davenport.
Oh,
man,
my God.
Huh?
You know, that was a major stop for a lot of people on their way to the Cannonball.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of a last pit stop to find parts.
Yeah, so for those who don't know what Davenport is, you want to explain to them? I know what it is, but why don't you explain to them the significance of that?
Davenport's been an antique motorcycle swap meet that's been happening for, I think, 40 or 50 years now. I don't know the exact number, but it's been a long time. Probably one of the best meets in the whole country. One of the more larger ones happens in Davenport, Iowa every year, just right before Labor Day, or is it Memorial Day? I don't remember. Anyway, the one that happens in September. Anyway, just a great meet. Thousands of people there, thousands of vendors, some of the best parts that you'll ever see. Really kind of plays well to everybody that lives on the West Coast and even in the Midwest for the Motorcycle Cannonball. Just really a last ditch hurrah to find some extra parts before the Cannonball starts. Meet up with your buddies, do some final tuning, show off what you've been building for the last year, and just a great place to hang out and have a good time. So really a big bummer that, this event isn't going to be happening this year. But so it looks like we're probably only going to have really kind of one swap meet this year, and that's going to be actually next Saturday, not this Saturday coming up, but the following Saturday, the 10th and 11th in Augusta, Kansas, with fellow cannonballer Kelly Maudlin at the Twisted Oz Museum. He'll be having his swap meet. I think they're having a bike auction, a little bit of a road run, just a good, wholesome fun with old bikes. Make sure you check it out. Really good place. I've been talking to a lot of people this week that's where they're going this week, and that's where everybody will be at. So,
will there be a swap meet at Sturgis this year? Will there be an AMCA sanctioned meet?
No, I know that we are having a bike show on Monday. I just got the details on it, so I'm a little sketchy on it, but I believe it's Monday from 10 to 3, and it'll be at the Iron Horse Saloon. So we'll just kind of have a ride in and shine. Last year we brought in some field games and a thing. It was really killer. I think I took home all the trophies.
Hey, and this is the deal with that too, because I'm involved in that one. If you show your AMCA card, you get lunch on the house. So this is literally this is literally a way for us to get together as the club and just celebrate the spirit of, all of us being together in such a beautiful place. And the Iron Horse guys are so nice; they're pitching out lunch for anybody carrying a card.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
I would go to Sturgis, but did you see where they put it?
Where?
Very, very far away from here.
It's in the perfect place. It's the perfect place.
That's what I feel about all the other places. Shoot, man, it takes me 3 days to get to Holy.
Yeah. Well, I got so much stuff going on there. I'm probably never going to leave here for the rest of the year. So,
speaking of
that.
Speaking of the swap meets and stuff, I know this is a shameless plug for me to throw in here, and we don't profess that this could ever replace the camaraderie and the atmosphere of a real swap meet, but every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do go live with a thing called Cyber Swap, and you guys are all welcome to bring your parts and stuff there until everything gets back to normal. We're at least trying to fill in the gaps there, so go check it out.
Yeah, it was a killer time. I actually got to be on it this last week.
You guys are killing me because I was going to set this up that Jason gave everything away last Sunday. Chris, first of all, you gave it away that we have Cyber Swap, which I was going to talk about. So I got nothing else to say. You guys can have the show. I'll just sit and listen.
Now, see, that's not nice.
Jason
you told me you wanted me to talk more.
Jason gave away everything last weekend. And if you haven't seen Cyber Swap and you live on the West Coast, get your ass out of bed. Turn on the YouTube, sit there in your pajamas, drink your coffee, and buy stuff cheap. It's a great show. There's some great stuff, and it's 10 o'clock Sunday mornings on Source Media's network. It's a really good event.
Heck yeah,
so that's enough of that. So,
heck yeah.
Well, you know what time it is, Jason?
I think it's time to bring in our next segment,
which is called A Picture is Worth 1,000 Words.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, guys. Good to see you again.
Michael.
Another week. We're back.
Heck
it's
yeah.
our dapper co-host, Michael Lichter.
Replete with
he makes us look good.
Yeah, right. Cool. So we got a new picture this week.
Well, how was your week first?
My week was great. Keeping super busy. We got a new printer. We're getting ready for the exhibition. We're doing things like, I'll show you.
And there he goes.
Making some prints.
Look at that.
Who's that?
Buddy.
Not those two guys. I've seen enough of those guys.
Check this one out.
Wow.
Oh, that's
Wow.
It's a little too
so
big. Anyway,
you're working vertical now, Michael?
I work inside out, upside down, left to right, however you want. Right to left. Do it all. But one thing I do is I do it too much. I've been up till 2 a.m, like almost every night. It's crazy. We're supposed to have all this time, and I don't know where it's going. The days aren't long enough. That's all I know.
Right. Well, you got like
let's-
less than 30 days now, right, to your exhibition here in Sturgis?
Jeez, why did you have to tell me that?
Yeah, right. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Jason, a whole lot.
Every 10 seconds, somebody's sending me some kind of message. See you in 27 days. See you in 24 days.
Oh
boy.
God.
Yeah, the pressure's on.
Michael, before we get into the segment, you and I had a conversation earlier this week about the world turning vertical instead of horizontal. And very briefly, can we touch on that and maybe talk to some people with cell phones? And
Kind of interesting because it seems like people with cell phones generally take vertical pictures for the most part. They certainly, when they're doing these podcasts or talking on FaceTime, it's vertical. So you see a lot of letterboxes, vertical pictures in a horizontal space. But, it's funny because in general, I tend to shoot many, many more horizontal pictures than vertical. To me, I like to get a sense of place. And can you guys hear me okay? I'm hearing an echo.
Yeah.
I'm hearing an echo also, but go ahead.
Okay. So I tend to feel like a horizontal picture gives a better sense of place, more sense of the environment where things are. And it's kind of how we see, right? We see a big panorama of the world. And in general, I do that. But we have been, Rob and I did have a conversation this week about how more and more, especially you see a lot of commercials on television that are being done during this time of COVID where they're using cell phone pictures that people send in and they're all vertical. It's kind of interesting. We'll see how that changes things going forward. I'm still going to keep looking at the world wide for the most part.
Well, I do get it.
Okay, so go ahead.
Just the way that you hold your phone and just the simplicity of the vertical photos. I get it.
Yeah. Well,
a quick tip when shooting video: do not turn your phone in the middle of the video because it will not compensate.
Boy, that messed people up.
That's today's video tip.
There you go. Cool.
But you know how hard it is to ride and turn your phone sideways, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The real tip there is you're not supposed to be holding the phone even vertically. You're supposed to be riding.
That's right.
Yeah, there is that.
I get yelled at on a weekly basis about that.
Cool. Let's get
so
on.
Michael, what do you got for us tonight?
I have some NOS, new old stock here. So actually, in Cannonball years, this is the original. This is in many respects. So this is 2010. I call this photo Cracked Cases. And it's Shinya on the road. It was taken in Lawton, Oklahoma. And what I was fascinated with is how Shinya, I think, for one thing, this photo, it's a detail. It's not showing much. And I think it demonstrates how you can tell a story without showing too much. And sometimes zooming into details can tell you a lot. And I think for me, this tells a lot about the dedication that people have to the Cannonball and to these old bikes. And certainly Shinya and his partner Nimi, a shining example. I mean, I don't know. I'd like to ask Shinya this question. How many times has he cracked those cases since he bought this bike? I cannot imagine because it was multiple times in 2010. So,
right.
I like the selective focus, and yet you could see Indian, you see that it's open, you see the metal, you see it's working, you see the out of focus hand, and I like the out of focus parts going off to the right, and the way you're seeing a tilted, the whole shot is a tilted. You're looking at a tilted environment, but and so it has a very selective focus. You see the one hand sharp, the other's not. But to me, that's what it's about. It's about dedication. Any thoughts on this, guys?
I love it. I mean, it's this to me speaks true Cannonball. I mean, this is man versus machine right here. This is some of the tribulations that you'll get to see. cracking these things open and rebuilding and not doing it in a clean environment like it should be done. I've seen people lap cases and grind parts on asphalt to get them back in there. And it's just amazing that people can do this and be up and running within just a matter of hours.
Well, this is, in a parking lot in Lawton, Oklahoma. And he did a number of all-nighters where they were just closing those cases up in time to get on the bike in the morning. And like I said, I think it's probably at least 3 times that they opened the whole engine up that trip. So
right.
I'll have to outshin you that. But yeah, I love
That'd
it.
be a good trivia question.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
Yeah.
We'll have to get the exclusive from him.
Right. I've actually been, if you follow Shinya on Instagram, you actually get to see what he's doing right now and get prepared. And they're still even in preparation, cracking the cases, I guess you could say.
It seems like he's always working on that bike in one way or the other. He's got his other projects going, and then the Cannonball bike is always sitting there reminding him it needs something to be done.
Right.
For those folks who don't know who Shinya is,
oh, thanks,
maybe
Rob.
you guys could give a little background on Shinya. And
okay.
the reason we can't ask Shinya how many times these cases have been cracked.
Okay. Well, we actually can. Shinya has been living in the state for probably 15 years. I know I was a sponsor. I wrote a letter of recommendation for his citizenship, or maybe it was his green. I can't remember now. But and he's married to Ayu, who we're both from Japan. And his English is still a little rough, so I does the translating. But Shinya's background is that he was part of I think it was called Zero Engineering. Is that correct? In Japan, and he really put them on the map. He was the guy behind it, and eventually he wanted to get out and come to America and do his own thing. So he did end up in Southern California, where through the name Shabbat Engineering, that's the name of his shop, he has a shop where he works on his own. He doesn't have any assistants, any helpers. And well, I'll tell you, to sit and watch him work, the dedication. I mean, I see it with a lot of the Japanese builders. It's wonderful to see Shinya, who's been here all these years, still acting in that way. And his whole shop is really like a piece of art. It's really like an artwork in progress. Everywhere you look, sculptural things that he's made, tools that he's made, and a chair or a stool that he sits on, and everything is just made to fit perfectly. And it's certainly not very big. He's got to move bikes away to get things out and get the one bike he could work on. So it's a tight space loaded with really cool stuff. Jason, what do you have to add to that?
Well, just to play on that, I mean, if you look at Shinya's Cannonball bike, I mean, that's really not the quality that he builds. I mean, the stuff that he's producing out of his shop is unbelievable. It's really rolling pieces of art is what they are. And it just doesn't. You'd look at his Cannonball bike and be like, "Oh, how's this guy making any money building any bikes?" But like I said, the quality of stuff that's coming out of his shop is, like I said, it's really rolling art.
But some people look at his finished bikes, his customs, and wonder the same thing, because it's not polished the way most people think of custom bikes. He leaves it in a very raw state, and you really get the sense of everything being worked by hand and rough. And Shinya's elevated to this place now where I think even most builders look at him like way up on a pedestal. What's going on in his mind, and especially because we don't understand his English so well. So you just look at the bikes and go, what was he thinking? What was he doing there? And but it's appreciated. I mean, he's built bikes for Sean Penn and a lot of other famous people very quietly. It just gets done and it's out there, but he's always busy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think he's an incredible asset to the Cannonball too. It's wonderful to have a figure like that he feels. He does this with the Cannonball, but he also does it with land speed racing. He goes out to Bonneville and the dry lake beds in California, and he takes the bike. He just loves it. They ride all the time. You'll see them working away in the shop. A visitor will come in. They go, "Let's ride," and they all get on and ride.
So hey, Michael, we have a question in from social media. Trisha Chance wants to know, what is the picture over your shoulder, your left shoulder?
Okay, my left shoulder, right there. If she's talking that one, I don't know how she's looking. I'll tell you what they both are. That one I call ready for. I'm sorry, everything's backwards. That one I call ready for takeoff, and it's just looking down on the start of a drag race in I think it was like 1990 or so at the Iowa Hog Drags. And the other one there, let me get my hands right because things are switched. That's from, I call that, no, that one's called Ready for Takeoff. The other one's called Blast Off. So Ready for Takeoff, that's from the Bonneville Salt Flats. And that's the Bub Streamliner. And I love the shot, is sort of this arced, you see the horizon line, you get the sense of the earth. And there it is, ready, I call it Ready for Takeoff. It was about to go on its record-breaking run.
So that was the Chris Carr year.
This is 1990.
Oh,
1990.
Geez.
So this is when it broke the Easy Rider Streamliner record, which had stood, I think, for 16 years. I believe that was 322 miles an hour, and it was about to go off. There's something about knowing that it was about to break this 16-year record, and it's just sitting there so quietly, and it's like another universe, really, all the white and the curvature of the earth that you seem to see in the distance. That's what's in the background.
Right on.
Happens to be 40 by 60 inches. That's a large one there.
Michael, do you have an assignment coming up or a series of work that you're going to be working on?
Right now, it's focused on the exhibition.
We'd be interested in knowing about.
The exhibition is the big focus.
The exhibition.
Yeah, it's we talked
and then
about
the
it
Cannonball.
And the Cannonball. So, and kind of one right into the other. The exhibition is heavy metal, METTLE, motorcycles and art with Moxie, and it's builders that have been building and in the business, still building, right, after 20 years or more. And I include myself in that. I'm showing my own photography this year. I normally do it only once every 5 years, but this year it'll be a little different. This will be sort of a 2-year thing. This is the older bikes this year, and next year will be the new bike.
Nice.
Up a little bit just because of COVID and all that kind of stuff. Is that correct?
That is correct. We had a number of builders that were really challenged. We have 5 builders from overseas that couldn't get here. And then even within the country, people are having trouble getting chroming and other supplies because shops were down for so long, getting certain parts that they needed manufactured and had a tough time. So we were having a lot of problems. So I opened it up and I said, hey guys, let's bring old bikes. There's going to be a few new bikes this year, but it's mostly old. We'll have 38 builders still. And it's going to be an all-star cast. And then next year as well, we'll swap out. There's some people that will be in just this year. The foreign builders will be back next year.
Oh, excellent, excellent.
And that's at the Buffalo Chip, and it's free for anyone that comes. There's no admission to the gallery.
Yeah, the exhibition opening on Sunday night is one of my favorite times during the motorcycle rally.
Thank you.
Everybody in the industry is there.
And to give people that haven't been there an idea, it's more than 6,000 square feet in the gallery, and every bike is up on a pretty tall pedestal lit with theater lighting. We have, I think, 85 pan lights up above, and then the artwork on the walls surrounding. So it's pretty impressive.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
Yeah, you can see past years of other shows on my website, and every year the theme changes.
And your website is?
LichterPhoto.com.
LichterPhoto.com. Be sure to check it out, everybody. Michael's got some spectacular action and still photos and everything from the motorcycle industry you want to see. Many years. How many years, Michael, now?
This will be my 40th year in Sturgis. It'll be the 20th year of the exhibition. So a lot of years. The website, unfortunately, just goes back 5 years now until we relaunch a new site where we're going to keep working our way backwards.
Excellent.
Eventually we'll get back to all the old stuff. There is some on it, but mostly the last 5 years.
Nice. Very nice. Hey, Chris, what do we got from social media? Anything?
Just everybody
for Michael?
sending out their love, and fantastic that to have Michael have an opportunity to have Michael explain his photography and these different pictures and share in with this.
Nice.
Cool.
Michael, you have anything else you want to add to this story?
Just to thank everybody for tuning in. It's awesome. Thanks for being here.
You'll stay with us, but it's time for us to take a break and give our advertisers some love.
Sounds
So
great. And I'll
with
jump in the
that-
back seat.
Okay, jump. We're all going to jump in the back seat. We're going to let this thing auto drive us.
Oh my God, all together? Whoa.
Oh, there's beer in the seat in the back. We're good.
All righty.
All right, man. Everybody just hold tight. We'll be back in just about 2 minutes with more Cannonball Chronicles. Don't go anywhere.
Chris.
Try to call Jason. Hey, this is Chris from Cycle Source Magazine, and I want to thank you for watching the flagship show of the Source Media Group, Shop Talk. We go live with Shop Talk every Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but it's only one of the many programs we offer from Source Media. In addition to that, Wednesday nights we have Cannonball Chronicles that looks into the life and times of cannonball racers as they prepare for this year's Motorcycle Cannonball. Thursday night, we have Bike Night Live that dives into the culture of bike night, the food, the bikes, and the fun of hanging out with friends, and we even have some live entertainment. Sunday morning, Cyber Swap kicks off, where we have a sort of home shopping network approach to motorcycle swap meets, and we bring guys on that have parts to sell live right there. All of this in addition to our staple programs, which are Grease and Gears TV, live on the street from the events and rallies, Grease and Gears Garage, and Grease and Gears Garage Roadshow. We look forward to bringing more of this type of programming to you from the home of Two Wheel Entertainment, the Source Media Group.
We're really excited to be here. We're really excited to have a good time. This is my brother G-Man.
It's obvious to see someone put a lot of money into that bike.
Let's get into this one.
Holy cow. Factory tags. Rarer than hen's teeth, people.
There's a brand new Baker kicker pedal. Go like $75 on that.
I didn't hear the rules yet. George and I have to see if we're allowed to bid.
You are allowed to
Oh, we
bid.
are?
We were wondering about that.
Hey, we're all at the swap meet, man. I'm sorry.
Okay.
This is an 81 650 special motor.
So this is our big ticket item. Right now, you can just go right up on the screen and start hitting it, start pricing it. We can sell it right here, right now. All you have to do is go ahead and type in a number. You know, they're always hard to find the complete pieces all together that'll go on the police bike. You know, I chased for the 48. You know, in the coming weeks, we're gonna have more and more parts. We want guys to step up. If you have stuff, Suzuki's, Yamahas, bring it all.
Bring
Thanks
the
for
parts
having
flowing.
us.
Hey, Rob, here's a good question that came in from social media while we were on break. What is the relatively least expensive Cannonball bike, the Cannonball capable bike?
Well, you know, it seems like the JD has really flooded the market for the Cannonball participants. The 29 and earlier Harley JDs, and I would say anywhere from 21 or 22 up to 29 are the most affordable bikes right now. Maybe some Indians, but they start getting more exotic. So I would say, you know, it's still a reasonably priced bike. What you have to understand is that Cannonball has other innovating circumstances. You have to first acquire the bike, Then you have to prep the bike. Then you have to have your Cannonball entry be accepted into the event, pay for hotel rooms and whatnot. So you have to be careful. The best way to really participate is try to find somebody who actually is selling a Cannonball bike that has been run already. But notwithstanding, you want to change the wheels and the brakes on things anyway. So you're not looking for a restorable bike. You're looking for basically an engine, a frame, a transmission, and forks. So I would say that the Harley JD is really the way to go. So I understand that our first guest is waiting in the wings, and why don't we bring him in and we'll have a chat with him.
Right on. I'm sorry. 1 second. I blew the first guest. Totally shot it. Totally shot that one. Here we go.
David Lloyd.
Oh,
We got a problem there. We got a picture with the wrong name.
there we go.
There we go.
Okay.
Jason, what happened? Did you get lost?
Can you guys hear me? Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
You're back.
All right.
Jason, well, there was a question while you were gone about what's the most affordable entry-level Cannonball bike. Now, since you were gone, you didn't hear my answer. What would your answer be?
I've got my own idea what it should be, and it's one that we haven't seen yet on the Cannonball. I'm hoping someday somebody will bring one. Is a Harley single.
Oh,
Model B or C.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about the Model Bs and Cs being eligible.
Exactly.
That would be in that. Okay, so for those people who don't know, Model B and C is a single-cylinder flathead Harley, 350 and 500 cc models. Is that correct, Jason? I'm not well versed on.
Correct.
This. Okay.
Yep, correct.
And it's an interesting, smaller bike that quite possibly could be up to the task if it's set up right.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had the privilege of owning a few of them. I think they can run with the J's and the JDs and the 101s set up right. That they're actually a really good motorcycle, and with the small displacement, you would actually rank pretty high in the standings.
Well, and actually, they would be as competitive, if not more, than the early single-cylinder J-type motors.
Exactly. The only advantage,
the IOEs.
The only advantage that you're going to get is having a transmission.
Right. That would be an interesting thing. Hopefully, we see one of them coming up in the next few years. That would be great.
Well, I've been putting a challenge out to people to say, hey, let's see one. Get up to the challenge.
Right.
Let's see one. And nobody stepped up to it yet.
Okay, just for anybody out there, I'm totally willing to ride one for someone. I'm just saying.
We need you on the Cannonball, Chris. That would be awesome.
So now we have a rider.
Right.
So now we need a donor. Anybody. Any of you guys with the flathead singles from 28 or 29?
Yeah.
Actually, they started producing those things in 1926.
26. That's right. Yeah.
So.
And they're pretty cool. It's like it looks like a JD in miniature with a single cylinder. So it looks almost exactly the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're cool little machines, and if you get the right one, the secret weapon would be getting one of the overhead valves.
Well, that would be a CAC. Well, not a CAC, but a C model, right?
It'd be a CA or a BA, so you could still get the overhead valve in a 350 or a 500.
And for us lay people, what years are you talking about?
I think the first overhead valve came out in 28.
Yeah. 20.
So
How about a sports solo, Jason? How about somebody with an opposed twin sports solo? We haven't seen one of them yet, have we?
we haven't seen one of those yet either.
Hey,
And for the people that don't go with that type of brand, that would be the equivalent of the Indian O.
The model O. So, go ahead.
I just want to tell you guys how great the Cannonball family is out there, because everyone's so willing to help. Chopper Dave also is willing to donate his riding skills to this year's event. So there's two of us now that are just we're here in case anyone needs us. Chopper Dave is in on that with me.
So you're part of the community now, Chris. Yeah. You volunteered your services.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So we have a rider in the wings, do we not, Chris?
We do.
And
Mr. Tribbey, you there with us? Chris, are you there?
I'm here, yep.
There you go.
Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Excellent. I'm honored to be part of the show tonight. Thanks for asking me to be part of it. I could talk for probably 20 hours straight, but.
All right, go.
We're timing it.
How's that for interviewing skills?
Chris, can you tell us a little bit about your history and how you got to be such a great mechanic that everybody flocks to right around you on these trips?
Well, I've been an active motorcyclist since 1976, in the Harley world since 1980. Worked at a Harley dealership in Milwaukee for 10 years. Had my own aftermarket shop for 3 years. Worked at corporate in technical training. I developed
What's corporate
program. Traveled all over the world.
Where? Corporate where, Chris?
Corporate at Harley Davidson Motor Company in Milwaukee.
The mothership.
Yeah, so, my first dream was to get a Harley Davidson, which I finally did in late 79. And my next dream came true when I got a job at the dealership here in Milwaukee, House of Harley. And that was a 10-year, again, dream come true, being an enthusiast and then actually working for a dealership in Milwaukee. Very active, avid rider. I won the ABCs of touring in 1992 with 50,000 miles.
Whoa.
Hooked on long distance riding. And then in 97, at the peak of the Harley craze, I thought, me and my partner, let's do our own thing. So we opened up our own aftermarket shop in the Milwaukee area and built custom bikes and took care of the riders in the Milwaukee area. So again, another dream was attained by starting my own shop and having a great following of customers. And a lot of those customers were people that worked at Harley Davidson corporate. And during my time working at my own shop, which again was called Milwaukee Bike Works, a lot of these corporate people would say, the motor company needs guys like you to work for the company because you know this shit inside and out. And we need more people with experience working on these bikes. So long story short, in 2000, I attained my next dream, actually working for Harley Davidson Motor Company. Starting on the transmission line, third shift, putting transmissions together, and then advancing my way through the company, writing the V-Rod training curriculum, traveling to Japan to teach the Japanese school how to work on V-Rods and twin cams, working for a dealer consulting program, and then finishing my career at Harley with service retail best practices and service marketing, and then ultimately finishing up as a technical training curriculum manager.
You once told me that you were the equivalent at Harley Davidson of GM's Mr. Goodwrench.
Yeah, oh, you're right, and that's the term I use. So, the challenge that I wanted to bring to the dealers was, okay, you sold the bike, congratulations. Now, what are you doing to retain that customer to always come back to your dealership for all of their service work?
Amen.
So I've developed a lot of marketing programs that are still being used today around the world on how the dealership can stay connected with that owner and get them to come back for that required service that their bike needs to keep that bike running like new as long as they own that bike. So that's what I did. Up until the end of 2018, and I think we all are aware of the amount of large companies that have downsizing every now and then. And at the end of 18, I was given an opportunity to leave the company. So I took them up on their offer and started up Milwaukee Bike Works again out of my garage, out of my shop. It's a pretty well-equipped shop. And I'm focusing on antique motorcycle restoration, which really means basically 1980 or older. Mechanical restoration, keeping the patina as is, but making sure that all the mechanical underbelly of the bike is like new. But the outside patina still looks like an original bike.
Very nice. Very nice. So what are you riding on the Cannonball? Tell us about your bike.
So right behind me, my 1911 Excelsior, which is a 30 horsepower, 30 cubic inch, 4 horsepower atmospheric intake valve, which means there's no mechanical components that open and close the intake valve. The atmospheric intake valve is opened by means of the downward motion of the piston, which creates a vacuum, which then sucks that intake valve open, allowing the fuel to flow in from the carburetor. Most early singles, including Harley-Davidson, had atmospheric valves. Right around 1912, 1913, all the single-cylinder motors then included a mechanical rocker arm to open and close the intake. But this one is still running atmospheric. Lucky enough to be the second owner of this bike.
No way.
It's a great story of how really the bike found me. And again, I could talk forever on it. And then ultimately attaining my next dream of getting the bike to run with the help of many, many friends. And then applying for the Cannonball. And I still remember that day when I got the email from Jason, congratulations, you're in. And again, it's a life-changing event to be involved in this sport, to have a bike this old and to make it, from a pile of rust, which is how I got it, to a running machine, and then actually to be accepted to the Cannonball and as a participant, doing over 2,800 miles in 2018 on this bike across the country. It's truly a life-changing event.
Chris, I think we have some of the pictures of that bike from the start, right? Is that some of the stuff that you sent in for us tonight?
Yeah. So there's a great picture of that's the bike as I bought it. The granddaughter of the owner of the bike, his name was Fred Hazen. He bought the bike down in the middle of Illinois. And he bought it brand new in 1911. And the granddaughter who I was dealing with at the time, the executor of the estate, she was in her mid-60s. And from her earliest recollection of this machine, it was always just sitting in the basement for as long as she can remember. So if you think people can recall, from age 5, that bike's been sitting in the basement for over 60 years.
Wow.
So we had
more spectacular is what you've actually done with this bike. If we can go back to that live shot with Chris with the bike. So we have our before picture, and then we can see what it looks like now. And now, Chris, you've ridden this bike already on a Cannonball.
Yes. So, again, 2018, I was accepted to ride the event. I acquired the bike in December of 2016, and it took me about 18 months to fully done. And I put on 500 miles on the bike before the event. So my approach, some would argue with me on this, but my approach, right or wrong, was I want to restore the bike as it was originally built, and I want to ride the bike in the event as it was originally built, which, again, that means clincher tires, that means a leather belt, that means a wooden, and the original Muscleman rear brake, which proved to be my nemesis on the 2018 ride.
I was just going to ask you what was your tribulations in your problems that you had witnessed in the 2018 Cannonball?
Well, so again, being a Cannonball newbie, I guess, and being the oldest bike on the 2018 ride, I was thrilled just to finish the prologue, which was about a 15-mile ride. So at the end of the prologue, I was celebrating high with my crew that, after 15 miles, we're in first place.
Right.
And,
Well, you maintained that lead up until pretty far across the country. Tell me, after the Muscleman brake sort of let go on you, where you were at when you finally lost your position. It was pretty far along, as I remember, and I may have it wrong. So you tell us when that was.
All right. Well, actually, the Muscleman brake failed me on the practice day of riding in Portland, Maine. One of the things Jason does for all the riders is he gives everybody a practice run to go through the city and get used to your paper scrolling map. So I did that just to make sure I knew how to navigate the turn-by-turn directions. This is the day before the prologue. And I think that was about a 10, 15-mile ride through the city of Portland, Maine, if I'm not mistaken. And literally, as I pulled back into the hotel from that practice ride, my brake locked up solid. And this is, again, the day before the event. So a bunch of guys came running down, and we actually carried the bike back into the parking lot and ripped the rear wheel apart. And I'm thinking, my God, we're starting this tomorrow. And I don't have a sticker. Those of you that know the Muscleman brake, it's an expanding brass can inside the hub.
Right.
And I did not have a spare Muscleman brake piece. And I am in the full panic mode because we're less than 24 hours from starting the event. And my wheel is locked up tight. So my crew, which was Dan Rogensvoog and Brent Thompson, we pulled the wheel apart, we ripped it all apart, and it's a brass can which expands inside the hub. And it was just all chewed shit. So Brent, my crew guy, says, well, give that to me. And he very calmly went about grazing it all up, and he had a little bench grinder, and he ground it all down. And I'm making calls all over to California to get another hub. And in about an hour, Brent says, well, here, I think I got it all fixed for you.
That's great.
In the bike, and it worked. It worked okay. But I did get a hold of the guy in California that makes these things, and he was a phenomenal machinist, and he had sent me a number.
And this is at what time of night before the?
Well, this was about, the good thing was, local time in Portland, it was about 1 o'clock. So California, we had the luxury of the time zone change, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was able to email me 3 more of them for the very next stop. And I used those over the next 7 to 8 days of the ride to maintain no breakdowns. But there was a couple of days, those first couple of days, where I actually was on the starting line and I knew I had no brake at all. I didn't tell you, Jason, but I knew it would be fairly flat terrain, once we got into Ohio, Wisconsin, Iowa. But there was at least 2 days I did not have any brake at all at the starting line, which is why I wore through my sole of my shoe right down damn near my sock.
I remember you showing me one time, the soles of your boots and how much you had wore through them. Even with those things on a coaster brake, even on a good day, they're not that great with some of the terrains that we're going over. And, people got to Fred Flintstone those things every once in a while,
Well, there was a couple of, I guess, sphincter tightening moments. So we got through the brake issue.
Were you?
And actually, so we did very good. We were in first place.
Were you still in?
We were actually in first place the first 10 stages. The prologue through stage 9, which up to the rest day in Sturgis. And I can't tell you the feeling that we had every night when I would come in.
Right.
Sometimes literally minutes before the cutoff. Maintain my perfect score. I guess with the pinnacle being that last day finishing on Main Street in Sturgis after not being able to ride the bike over to Mount Rushmore Mountain, and actually spent probably over an hour pushing that bike up the hill.
Oh.
And then
that was a tough one.
Well, then it was balls to the walls after that. Literally accepting, I accepted the fact once I got to the top and I started down again, I accepted the fact I'm going to blow this motor up. Because it was literally all in through the rest of the twisty turns, Deadwood, and I had Doc McCormick and Karen following me in the back. But I said, theoretically, I can make it. And the rest of that day, the rest of that ride, I fully accepted the fact I'm going to blow the motor up. I'm going to blow a clincher tire, but I'm going to give it my all. And I finished that day with, I think, 2 minutes to spare, still in first place. And the emotions you just grab your gut and I started crying like a baby because I had made the hardest day riding a motorcycle in my entire life on that stage.
That hill was tough.
I remember you pulling into Sturgis that day. It was, the emotions that you had that day were incredible.
Yeah. So it was cool. And then we had the off day, in Sturgis. So we did our normal maintenance and we pretty much took the motor all apart and we looked at the intake valve, looked at the exhaust valve. And I said, they both look good. Let's keep running them because everything's working fine. And then that very next day out of Sturgis, after the day off, it was a perfect day. There was no wind, calm as can be. The motor's running beautiful, and I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be great. 100 miles in, boom, the motor shut off, and I coasted the side of the road. And what actually ended up happening is the exhaust valve actually broke right in half. The tulip broke in half, went into the exhaust pipe. So there was no fixing it. On the trailer I went. I didn't have a choice. And I remember seeing Rebecca Cunningham at the first gas station when my bike was on the trailer, and she goes, "You must really be bummed out." And I said, "No." I said, "This is the best. I'm having the time of my life." And I'm the happiest guy in the world, having made it this far on this kind of bike.
I want to say that
We got a question from a listener here.
Montana.
It's actually from Marjorie Kleiman. So
Right?
in the face of all this,
Go ahead, Michael.
Terrible show.
is Rob asking a question? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Mike.
Okay, I heard Rob asking a question. I'm sorry. So Marjorie Kleiman has asked, what made you get into this in the first place? What made you sign up for the Cannonball? I mean, listening to your stories, it's incredible, the man against machine and the almost like a daily battle, it sounds like, and the feeling that you get coming in and breaking down and crying just from having made it. So now looking back, what made you what made you sign up?
Well, I'll try to keep this real short and sweet. I worked with Bill Redensel, who was a Cannonballer from the 2010, the first event, and I watched him do it. He came back from that event. He held a little impromptu talk at the museum, and I went to listen to his story, and I walked out of that meeting in late 2010. I said, I got to do the Cannonball. I got to try to find a bike. So I started looking the best I could to find something, and going to the Mecum auctions, talking to people, and just kept coming up empty-handed, or stuff was just too expensive for me. Fast forward to a friend of mine alerted me to the sustainable, and he was a friend of the family's, and he recommended that I would be the guy that could restore this Excelsior back to life. And I made a promise to the family to honor Fred, the owner of the bike. I would do my best to get it started and get it running. And I would do my best to get accepted to the Cannonball. And if I did, I'm going to ride this bike on the Cannonball. And family, very much to their credit, the family recognized the amount of work and money I would have to put into this bike. And they were extremely fair with what they wanted for the bike, and we made a great deal, and the family got to see me start the bike up. And in fact, they actually
We have a question from Marjorie Kleiman.
Awesome
Get
story.
involved with the Cannonball to begin with,
Another
Chris.
question that this takes it a little bit away from the Cannonball, but looking at the chase, because you did the chase last year in 2019, and on the chase, you were definitely a team leader. I mean, you were out front. I never, ever saw you behind another bike. And typically there are 5 bikes.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. I'm getting confused here because I hear another voice coming over my.
You're good, Mike. Go ahead.
Okay, we can hear you.
Okay. I hear Rob for some reason. So anyway, on the chase, you had a group of people around you all the time, whether you were riding or whether you were working on the bikes and helping other people helping you, but there was always a group. And by contrast, the Cannonball seemed like such a solitary adventure. And I don't know if that was just because it was the first year, maybe this time it'll be different. Maybe you can talk to that and the difference between the chase and the Cannonball and what that experience is, that solitude versus the group.
Yeah. Great question. A lot of people that I know have asked me, so what do you like better, the Cannonball or the chase? The answer is you can't compare them. It's totally different events. The Cannonball, for me, being on the oldest bike in the ride in 2018 and probably one of the slowest machines on that ride, it was all about the solitude. I loved and I cherished every morning, me and Dan and Dean, another guy, we'd start out together, sometimes at dawn. And within about 10 miles, the 4 of us were really separated. And for the rest of the entire day, pretty much you are by yourself. And those are my again, it's hard to put into words, but riding all by yourself, going 35 miles an hour on that bike. And it's just the solitude.
Chris!
So we can help each other with tools. But it was more of a team event. And I don't want to make it seem like there was more pressure, but there was more expectations on me on the chase because I had these other guys following me. Which again, I gladly accepted to do. The chase was a cool bike ride with a bunch of your friends. Cannonball was a true test of man and machine. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Michael?
Yeah, I hear. I'm having trouble with sound. I'm hearing Rob's voice, and I'm losing. I lost Chris there for a while, so I'm not sure what's happening. Is Rob still on, or is it just me now? I'm sorry.
Well, right now it's just you because Rob's having a connection issue. So
Okay, that's what's been going on. I'm sorry about that. And then I
no, you're good.
sort of lost Chris as well. Well, I absolutely see the difference, and I agree with you totally that there's no comparison between the Cannonball and the Chase. And it's interesting, as a photographer, I get out there and I produce a story, and it goes out around the world. And sometimes I get magazines saying, "Oh, gee, what another story of antiques riding." And it's like, no, these are not only is the Chase different from the Cannonball, but I think every Cannonball is different from every other Cannonball. And I guess this being your second one, you'll see that for the first time. But the route being different, people being different, the bikes being different, the weather being different, everything changes. So it's an all new event. And so I agree with you that you can't compare them. But you certainly, it was amazing to watch your focus on the 2018 Cannonball. That was fantastic because it takes a lot of discipline. But I would like to say to the listeners also that there are a number of Cannonballers that do ride in groups, and they may have faster bikes. I mean, Chris was on the oldest bike. Is that not correct, Chris, in 2018?
I was the oldest bike in 2018.
Yeah, so I mean, you were going for it, and you were doing such a great job. So it's a different thing when you're at that level, I think, with the singles like you or with some of the others that you're out first and you're in last and you're exhausted. So it is very different. How did you feel about that, seeing some of your friends have a much easier day and off drinking in the evening and not having to worry as much about the bike?
But there's so many challenges on Cannonball, because we had a lot of hosted lunches where you're expected to be at the lunch at a certain time and leave lunch at a certain time. And quite frequently when I got to the lunch stop, I had literally enough time to get off my bike, pull my helmet off, grab a bottle of water, and hear the megaphone, "Class 1, line up."
Wow.
Literally, it was, a minute to 2 minutes, and I pull in, "Class 1, line up," and away you go again.
Wow.
Another just a real quick story here. I don't want to take time away from David. I know he's anxiously waiting here. But, when I did the chase, I had Cannonball flashbacks frequently. And
Cannonball flashbacks.
You were going so fast. I mean,
wow. My stomach actually clenched tight because in the Cannonball, I didn't always make it over the hill.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me during the chase. When I saw a hill, I actually got nervous and clinched up and thought I was on my Excelsior and accelerated down the hill, to make it up, and then I, kick back. Well, hang on, you got 3 gears here. You're okay.
One more question there, and then on the going into the Cannonball now for the second time on that same bike. Of course, you're going to deal with your brake issues that you had. What are some of the other things you learned from the first one that you're going to take to the second one, like something to do with preparedness or maybe your attitude going out, the mental attitude, anything, even what you eat or how you're going to sleep or your crew makeup and how things are going to work? What are the things that you learned from the first one that you are going to try to change or not?
We actually had a really good system. I made up a nightly check sheet, a maintenance, preventive maintenance sheet. And my crew at, last year was Dan Rogan, Drew, Frank Thompson, and myself. This year, we're going to add a 4th member. JR will be with us. So we're going to follow that same preventive maintenance schedule. I learned a lot from the brake, so hopefully I have a decent brake this time. It's still going to be a coaster brake. It's still a period correct brake hub. I plan on putting on at least 300-400 miles on the bike before the event. So I think, what we did last time, we're going to stick with that same regiment, up at 5 in the morning and get ready for the day.
Oh.
Heck yeah. So what other kinds of things are you working on right now, Chris, in the shop?
What's that?
Besides so what other kind of things are you working on right now besides the Cannonball bike in the shop?
Restoring a 1959 panhead. I just finished a beautiful red 56 panhead. I've got a 65 coming in for some work. 37 UL coming in for some work. So I'm keeping busy in, my new business. Having a good time, doing a lot of 4-speed transmission builds, building a lot of wheels. But it's getting to the point where right now I got to start shifting my focus to being prepared for the Cannonball.
Right.
Getting the trailer set up, getting my spare parts set up, things like that.
Well, one of the things that I really appreciate with you as a builder and a shop owner and a participant is that you actually are one of the only few people that really put everything out there online, from, step-by-step procedures of how you fix something or how you're building it, very, very detailed photos and descriptions. I love what you're doing with your blog. Can you give us a little bit about your blog, where to find it, so people can check it out?
Sure. So, we're all into Facebook, and I'm on a number of Facebook pages like most of you are. So I started the blog. It's simply christribbeyblog.com. And I wanted to document from the very first discussions I had with the owners of the bike and how we negotiated and everything that we followed to the point of me taking possession of the bike and bringing it home. And then really documenting every single step I took, trying to take things apart on the bike, taking them apart. The people that have helped me, countless number of people have helped me. This all isn't just me. But really thoroughly documenting what it took to take a rusted, seized engine, seized frame, and turn it into a running bike. So that's all documented on that blog. So it's not just my Facebook page. I try to put all pertinent information on the blog as it pertains to the Excelsior, the Cannonball, as well as the Chase. And I'm not afraid to share anything. A lot of people have shared so much with me. Without people helping me, I would have not had a running bike. So I think the standard Cannonball creed, in my opinion, is every one of us wants to help every participant to finish the event.
Absolutely.
Before we let you go, Chris, because we will have to move to our next guest soon. I have a question for you. Have you shared with the family your experience with this bike and what's their reaction been?
Yes, I have.
The family you got the bike from is what I meant.
Saying they were thrilled would be an understatement. This is a happy, sad story. So Kathy was the executive of the estate, and she's the woman I dealt with as we negotiated me to be the next caretaker of this bike. So she was, I had her over to the house a few times to see the bike as it was in process. And she saw a video of the bike that was running, the running bike, so she got to see it. And extremely unfortunately, she passed away before the Cannonball event began. That being said, a lot of her family, including her kids, her husband, and other relatives, they all flew to Portland, Maine. So they could actually see the full log, the lineup, and they could see the actual start of the event from the dealership in Portland, Maine. So they followed along.
Very cool.
For days. So again, very emotional. But they got to see Grandpa Fred's bike alive again.
That's so cool.
That is way cool.
And lastly, from me, what have you started training yet? And what are you doing for training for the Cannonball?
I'm trying not to eat any carbs. I got my bike.
So now you also run how is that possible? You run a bar called Nick's Anvil Inn. How is it possible to avoid the carbs?
Water, baby. I did get my bicycle out of the basement. I just haven't ridden it yet. So, all seriousness, Bob. I'm trying to drop another 10 pounds. I'm trying to watch what I eat, because once the event starts, your eating habits are critically affected, and you have to stay hydrated. And for me, and I'd like to say for the other people that are riding singles this year, you are going to be pedaling your bike. You are going to be pushing your bike. And that's not as easy as it sounds. Believe me.
How much weight did you lose on the last Cannonball?
10 pounds on the actual event.
Wow.
And that's over how many days? 17 days, right?
15 days. And before the event, I dropped 10 before the event. So, Dean gave me that advice. He says, you need to drop some weight, and you need to get ready to pedal that bike, because you will be pedaling that bike. And there was more than one day that me, Dean, and Dan Emerson, we were all pedaling up the same hill more than once.
Right.
Now, I got to interject for a second here, because I understand there's a certain amount of kinetic energy that can be put away through the proper use of fried cheese curds. I'm just saying, I know this is probably like a secret weapon you don't want to tell other people about, but
there's a secret methane gas chamber that
that's your exhaust valve. Hey, Jason, show him your hat. Show him your hat.
Oh,
Jason.
yeah.
This is special for you, Chris.
I just wore this special for you today. I had it on most of the show, but then I started sweating.
Somebody said
I
something
brought
about
that, and I brought the spotted cow.
Nice.
Yep.
And that's from your crew chief, Dan.
Perfect.
Well, Chris, thanks a lot for joining us tonight. And I hope you'll come back, because it sounds like there's a lot more we can talk about before the event. So if you wouldn't mind coming back with us on a future show, we'd love to have you.
I'd love to come back. You bet.
All right. And good luck with Milwaukee Bike Works. I know it'll be a huge success for you.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks. Hey, Chris Callan, do we have that video that I sent you earlier that we can play just to take a quick break?
We do.
Excellent. Let's play that, and we'll be back here in just a second.
Geez, I hope it's a minute. Is it a minute long?
Good job.
We're doing regular maintenance. We're putting a new belt on, putting new legging on the front pulley, lining it with new leather. So we start out fresh. We're having a look at the brakes, repacking the wheel bearings, changing the oil, fresh gas, normal nightly maintenance. So most people, when they think of a motorcycle, they think it's a chain to transmit the power from the engine to the rear wheel. The really early motorcycles like this 1911, they actually use a leather belt, and the front pulley has what's called legging. So like your belt from your pants, this is a leather strip that's actually screwed onto the metal pulley. So the leather belt rides on the leather pulley like that. And then just like the front, the rear sprocket, in this case, is made out of wood, and it's also lined with a leather legging. So the leather belt rides on leather. It's leather on leather.
Couple gallons of kerosene.
I didn't run today. God damn it, you're trying to embarrass me in public?
No, not me.
Son of a bitch. I didn't make it.
Stove oil.
But tomorrow, I'm going to run like a wild panther.
We got diesel.
And we're back. So that great video right there is actually one that we just uploaded today to our Motorcycle Cannonball YouTube channel. We've got a lot of great videos that we're going to be releasing from some of our videographers such as JJ and Rebecca. My goal is to really kind of release something about every 3 days on there for you guys to check out leading up to the next event. And then, of course, we'll be having live and more and more videos here at the 2020 event. Robbie, what you got?
Okay, so I just want to alert people. You see up in the top right corner of your screen, we have what's called the logo roll. And tonight we have two new advertisers with us. One is a good friend out of Colorado. One is a good friend out of Colorado, runs the Rocky Mountain Motorcycle Museum, Jim Ware. He's got a great museum in Colorado Springs. It's an excellent place to visit. If you are traveling through Colorado, I highly recommend it. I've been there myself, and I was just pretty much taken awestruck by the whole thing. So if you get there, so that's the Rocky Mountain Motorcycle Museum, and I'm really happy to say that we have Jim's Performance Products, who makes unbelievable, probably top quality parts for your Harley Davidsons. They make parts for early Harleys all the way up through modern stuff. So Jim's is probably the top name in performance products for the inside of your motorcycle, your Harley motorcycle engine. And now, personally, I'm not aware if they make for other products, but I know we will only use Jim's products here at RetroCycle.
Oh, they make great tools too.
That's true. So
I'm down
go
for
to
that.
jimsusa.com. Make sure you check them out for any of the products. They support their dealers unbelievably. And I would recommend anybody doing a motor build to insist on Jim's Performance products, and not just because they're a sponsor, but they're one of my favorite go-to people as far as before they even became a sponsor. So
yeah, absolutely. I love their tools.
Welcome aboard to Jim's, and we hope this is a good experience for you and for us both in a long relationship.
Absolutely. So we're running a little late today, but that's all right because we don't have a time limit, do we?
Nope.
All right. We're going to keep on going because I think this next segment and our next rider is going to be just as good as the last one. We've got David Lloyd coming up here from Arkansas. David's a great, great guy. We'll get into some stuff with him. One of the most organized riders that I've ever seen come across the event. Great, great dude. And let's get him on. Let's bring our next rider. Hey, David, what's happening, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
David,
I hope we didn't keep you up too late.
You make a guy blush coming on live.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Good.
That's good.
Well, give everybody out there a little bit of history on yourself, where you come from, and just give us a little background to start off with.
Okay. Started out living in Memphis, grew up as a young guy in Memphis, moved to a little outskirt city in Mississippi, Olive Branch, and started raising my family there. Been in motorcycles most of my life, always wanting another one or wanting something different. And my entry into knowing the antique is a real odd story because I got an old antique Harley back in early 2000s, and I got involved with Barber Vintage Motorsports. Mm-hmm. And we talked to Barber about doing an event of having what's called a century race. And they agreed, and they let us have it, our chapter, Motorcycle Club. So we started doing this event, and I got to administrate this century race. And it was a lap around Barber track with 100-year-old motorcycles. And you got to think about this. This was before Cannonball was ever even thought of. Bruce Linsday and a fellow named Calvin Burnett had 03 Indian and Harley, and they were the very first lap. And we had that one event, and they made one lap around the track, and it was like slow as Christmas. And so everybody, but it was exciting, and they let us have it and run with it. And so for 10 years, I had all these guys that would call me throughout the year to say, hey, I want to bring my 100-year-old motorcycle to Barber Vintage. And so, I mean, gosh, that's how I met Lonnie. I met Lonnie in 03. Bill, what's his name?
Redensel.
I can't say it until I hear it. But he called one time and said that he wanted to bring a bike. And Bill Waxler, Joe Gardella, Lonnie brought a bike one year. And so every year I got to meet these guys. And so in 10, when Lonnie started talking about the Cannonball, I knew a lot of the riders didn't have anything to compete, but got to hang out with all those guys and kind of see it. And I'm telling you, just like any of these guys that ride and get involved in this, when you do it, you're hooked. I just saw it in 10 and just fascinated with it and had to do it. Actually, my bike, the 1919, I bought from Vince Martinino in Hot Springs when he was there on the rest day in 2010. He had it in the trailer. No kidding. Yeah.
That Vince, man, he's a guy. He's got deals cooking all over the place.
Yeah.
He's hustling bikes everywhere.
He's got stuff.
He was riding a Pope that year, and his son was pulling the trailer, and it was full of stuff. And I think they were, if I'm not mistaken, you know probably better than me. I think when they were in Hot Springs, they went into an antique store and found some rare motorcycle engine and bought it on the spot.
I wouldn't doubt it. Vince has a nose for everything.
Vince is everywhere.
Yeah, he is.
He's coming back, isn't he, riding this year?
He is. Yeah. We'll get to see him back this year.
Yeah.
Be his first time back since 2010. So I can't wait. I mean, I know my wife is probably, a little worried because I know he'll be bringing a trailer full of stuff and bikes and be finding bikes along the way.
We made the deal. We made the deal in Hot Springs, shook hands on it, and he continued on to California, Santa Monica, and then they threw the bike in Dale's trailer, and Mo back then was driving Dale's rig, and he came back and he called. I was watching him and tracking him when he was bringing it back to me, and he every time I would look him up and see where he's at on the map, he was way ahead, and he was just driving like a badger. And it was 1:30 in the morning when he pulled off the freeway and threw the bike out at a Harley Davidson dealership at 2:30 in the morning.
I think your wife is more worried about the trailer because you'll be buying all the bikes on the trailer.
Oh no, not me. No.
Just looking.
Just looking.
So David, tell us about what's behind you there.
Behind me now is the same 1919 that I rode in 2014. And I was really a new guy. I was just like I heard Jody say the other night. I wasn't in your clique, really. Nobody really knew who I was. I'd gotten this bike. And I like to think I do things pretty right. And so I wanted the bike to look like a sleeper. I really wanted it to look like people would snicker and say, that bike's not going to make it. But mechanically, it was rock solid. It had 2,000 miles on it when I got to Daytona. And I was just like Chris said. Day 10, I was like fourth place. I was about the fourth oldest bike in the 14, because, the 14 was 1936.
Right.
So me having a 19, I was one of the older bikes. And I was running a perfect score until I had a blowout in Colorado. Day 10. That's man, when you have to get on the trailer, you go to the back like a NASCAR pack. When you fall out of the draft, you go to the back.
That's true.
But I worked
That's
back up.
true.
We put a new tire on it, and that night, and never missed another beat. So a flat tire took me out.
So that's an interesting point about the Cannonball. As much preparation as you can do, there are unknowns that will put you out of contention.
For sure.
So there is a lot of luck involved in this event. I mean, you can be as prepared as anybody, and one little road hazard can put you out of contention. So just an important thing for people who don't know about the Cannonball, that there are outside forces working against you no matter what you do.
No, exactly. And David was probably one of the most prepared people that I've ever seen do a Cannonball. Tell us a little bit about your preparation of what you did on the 2014.
About a
your
year
training.
Out, training. Training was it. Bill said that the other day, getting your body ready, getting your bike ready, and getting your mind ready. And so I came up with this idea I don't think anybody had done. I was driving a Honda Element at the time for my vehicle. So I went to the junkyard and bought an old seat and stripped it down to the frame, put a T-post on it and put a leather seat on it, and rode for 11 months driving the car.
That picture's up now. That's so great.
When Lonnie, every time Lonnie would introduce me or say anything about me, say, this is the guy that put a motorcycle seat for a year in his car. And it worked. It worked.
That's so nutty. That's excellent.
But the way I know it worked is, that I never had any issues at all from a butt. We're sitting in a seat for 10 hours a day. And when I got back, about a year later, we went to Texas. Mike Carson put on a ride out in Texas about a year later, and I had not prepared. And so I jumped on the bike, and I'm in at 150 miles. I was like crawling all up, get off. So it did prep. It worked.
And is that the same seat or just a similar seat?
No, on that bike, that was the seat I was sitting on. I put it in the car, and I had another seat on the bike when I was riding it, breaking it in. And then when I left, I put that seat on the bike.
So it was contoured to you. It knew you personally.
It did. I'm not doing that this year. I got too fancy of a seat. I can't get a seat to tear up to make a seat post now.
So that one of your changes is that you're getting a new seat. What else have you changed on the bike since 2014?
Well, it's really, I took it all apart. It just was beautiful. It had 7,000 miles total for the 4,000 of the Cannonball 2 on it, and I probably put 1,000 after we got back, just playing around shows and riding it. And I tore it down, and I was just so impressed with the insides of the motor. I put rings on it, changed moving parts, chains, and tires. And I like to say the way it looks now is I put a tuxedo on it.
Oh, right on.
Hey, so, Rebecca Cunningham says that the bike is named Lisa, and to ask you about the name. It's a special story.
It is a great story. Lisa, a good friend of mine here that's a machinist, that is a mentor of mine that really has put my hands on machines and taught me a lot of building lathes and milling machines. He's got a special needs daughter. And Lisa will come out in the shop when we were out working, and she would have her little place in the shop with a chair. She would sit and listen to us, and she would always ask questions. And she was one of those little girls that you could say something like, we made a comment one night about 1965 was Harley's first electric start. Really, it wasn't, but we were talking about that in a panhead. And a few hours later, Lisa came over and she said, 1965, Harley, electric start, first one, huh? And she just had a brilliant memory. And but she was special. She's special needs, and she stayed out there in the shop. She always watched us, and Jim was there. We made a comment one night. I said, man, I'd like, the guys that do these Cannonballs, they name the bikes. I'd like to name the bike Lisa. And he said he was thrilled. So one night after we had the bike lettered and had it over here, we brought Lisa in, and she stood with me, and we took a picture of it. And then she always kept saying she wanted me to ride her on it. I said, you got to get mom and dad to clear that, to see if that's going to happen. And I think mom was more not wanting to do it than dad. And she kept on, and every time I'd see her, she'd talk, when am I going to get to ride on the 19? So I took the fuel tank off the back, put a pad on it, put some foot pegs, and I went over and told her I'll be extra careful. And we took her around the neighborhood, and she was just grinning ear to ear.
Isn't that awesome?
Oh, that's sweet.
That's awesome.
So we left
That's
Lisa. It's still Lisa.
Nice. Hey, somebody shared a story with me about being on the Cannonball. I don't know if I have this right. Being on the Cannonball and something about a chain link fence. Does that mean anything to you?
Yeah. I got some good friends that helped me get out of that. Them wide handlebars, when you missed a turn and you pull over in this little small parking lot, and as you're making those handlebar turns, and then you gas it, and the fence is just coming at you full blast, and you can't get out of it.
So you got tangled up in a fence.
Yeah, I did. I tangled up in it. It took me down, and Chris Simmons was one of the first ones over to help me get up. She was really worried about me, and I was fine. It bent the mirror. We got up and finished the day, but it was just more of an embarrassment just to get sucked into the fence, and I couldn't get out of it.
Well, Chris Simmons is like the mom of the Cannonball. She
That's
worries
right.
about everybody, and she's always there for everybody. So
she was really concerned.
It was good she was there.
Yeah, she checked with me a day or two later. How you doing? And I was fine. It didn't really hurt anything. Pride.
Tangled up in blue.
Hey, Michael Lichter here in the sidecar. Got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
It's it seems like I have a lot of photos of you and Thomas Trapp from Frankfurt, the Harley dealer in Frankfurt, Germany. And I'm just curious, was that just coincidental, or did you develop a friendship with him? And that brings up the question of other friendships and people you met and friendships that were developed, if you followed, if you're still have kept in touch with all these people.
Oh, just about everyone. And in fact, I stay kind of low key with the Cannonball each year. But Thomas was an odd setup. I didn't know who he was when I was just kind of scanning the field of who I would be riding and who I was competing against. Thomas had a 16 Harley, and so he was going to have an advantage on me. He had a year on me in age, so I already knew all that. And we got to talking and cutting up. And the day that we were about to get to Daytona, I got a text from him, and it just blew me away because I just didn't know him and didn't know what it was, but I was sizing him up. And he sends me this picture, and it's out on the internet. It's him with his butt facing out, sticking out at you. And he goes, "That's all you're going to see of me." Thanks, man.
Excellent. Cool.
And then what really drew us good is the second or third night he broke his kick starter spring, and I was over checking on him, and we were just talking, and he said, "Man, I'm going to have to push start the bike the rest of the deal." He didn't have another one, and I was like, "Really?" And so I was like, "I don't want to win that easy, you know. If you got to, I'll get you now. If you got to push start it." And I went to John Newman. I knew John had a bunch of parts. He was in our team. We were with CCM. And I said, "John, Thomas has broken a spring, and can you help him out?" So I brought him over. Sure enough, John had one. He gave it to him. And so Mike was kicking, and I was like, we're back on. It's American against German again.
So since you mentioned teams, let's talk about teams. You've done how many Cannonballs now? Just one?
Just one, 2014.
And you were with Team CCM?
Yes.
Are you part of a team this year?
No, I was going to ride solo. Sonia was going to be my team leader. I even have a white flex just like Steve and Joan. And so I was going to kind of mirror that. And Mike called me the other night. He talked to me about his arrangement, what they were doing. We kind of talked and didn't really go any further. And then he called me last week and offered me to join up with him again. And I was like, my wife's really kind of counting on, you know, being a player and being responsible. And I said, I need to let her think about that. And so we talked it over and thought about it. And so nobody really knows. So this is going to be a live announcement. I told Mike I'd just say it tonight. I've agreed to team up with CCM, with Mike and Buck, and I believe there's another rider. And Mr. Ellis is a driver. I've Facebooked him, but I've never met him.
Big Don.
Big Don.
You're going to like Big Don. He's a good guy.
They tell me that he's a very organized guy, so that I'll fit right in with him.
Oh yeah, you'll have drinks when you come in at night, and he'll be, and Carson will have plenty of bourbon. So I don't know if you'll have bourbon. If you're a bourbon drinker,
well,
you will be by the end.
Away from that.
Well, by the end of the Cannonball, I don't know if you'll, we'll ask you after the Cannonball if you've acquired a taste for bourbon.
So I know you're going to ask me if I'm one special Cannonball rider, one of four in the whole 6 Cannonballs. There's 4 of us that have had one thing. Guess what that is?
I'm racking my brain.
No idea.
Only 4 of us have had motorcycles stolen.
Oh.
Well, we were getting to that, but I didn't know that was the question you were going to ask. So tell us about that experience. And I just want to add that social media was a big player in this. So go ahead.
Buck Carson lit the world up for us. We finished the Cannonball in Tacoma, had the big celebration dinner. Funny thing was, I could see the truck rig that we were loading up to go home. John's rig was out the window that we were, 8 or 10 floors up, but I could see the rig down at 10 o'clock when I went to bed. It was there. And so I was up at 5:30. I looked down there and it wasn't there. And my first thought was, well, Jesse, somebody's already moved the truck up front because we're going to meet at 6 o'clock and load up and hit the road and go home. And I called John. I said, have you got the truck moved? He goes, no. He goes, I got the keys right here. I said, it ain't down there. And so then it really was like somebody's tricking us. You just would never believe that it is what it turned out to be. The whole rig was gone. And 4 motorcycles, gear. Oh, and then think of this. Think of what anybody that's ridden in a Cannonball, the exhilaration of being on the event, finishing it, being over, and then getting that gut check, your bike's been stolen. It still hurts.
So then tell us what happened with Buck.
All right, so that morning, we all met at the couch and really started to sink in. This really did happen. Of course, we go to the hotel and we're like, there's cameras all over the place. Let's look at them. Oh, they're just dummies.
And so are they.
So, yeah. So Buck gets on Facebook. Now, you think this is 14. Facebook was around, but it wasn't as popular and big as it is today. But, man, Buck got on just passing it, and people started, I mean, what you would really call the frenzy of what the information did. Everybody knew. I think within 4 or 5 hours that day, I think every motorcycle person around that had anything to do with motorcycles, especially antique, knew. Pictures, tags, a list. We detailed everything, and man, it just went like wildfire. We had news stations coming to the hotel to interview us. It was in the paper every day. Of course, it started to rapidly change because we were in Tacoma. The truck was found like 2 days later. John got a call and found the truck in a town called Aurora, which was about 20 or 30 miles from Tacoma. And it was parked at a house in a neighborhood, no trailer, nothing in the back, and just the truck with the damaged. I think they busted the window and used pliers. That's how John and I continued to use the truck the rest of the week. So that was the first thing we found, the truck. Then we stayed on it, talking to detectives and trying. People were calling us and giving us leads. After about 4 or 5 days, we were about to give it up. We weren't really going to be able to do any more there. We and John and I were the two that stayed there. And I had a friend of mine that was a Delta Airlines pilot. He was in Seattle. He called me and said, look, you got to go home. He said, go to the airport. I'm going to have you a pass. You're going to jump seat on a Delta flight with me. I'm taking you home to Memphis. I said, okay. So I had a firearm with me, and he said, you're going to have to go get a case for that. So we had to go to a sports store, buy a case. And so we're back at the hotel, packing up, ready to go. My phone rings, and this guy says, are you standing or sitting? And I thought another call. I said, I'm standing. He said, well, you better sit down. I sat down, and he goes, my name is Sterling Kingman. He goes, I'm in Seattle. He goes, I think your trailer is behind my business. And I said, no, you just don't know how to take that. So I said, are you serious? And he says, there's curtains in the windows, and John's had those little opera windows with curtains in them. They'd spray painted. I don't know if that picture I sent him, it was a small resolution picture, but they'd spray painted all the Cannonball logos with paint. And he said, I can see bikes in the window. I can't make out everything, but I can see through the crack of the curtain. There it is, that picture there. That's how the trailer looked. And he said, I can see one of the bikes. And he said, in fact, I can see a number plate. I said, you can? He goes, yeah, I see 54. I was like, yeah, mine's there. It turned out all 4 bikes were there, but they were ransacked, all the tools and bags and gear and engines and stuff. It just still was devastating. But getting the bikes back was a major, great play. And so we hooked the trailer up to the busted up truck. And man, we got on the road and started back to Dallas to John's house. And here's how much the media learned that the news passed that we found the bikes. We actually had people on the side, on the expressway, pull up beside us, beep horns, seeing the rig, and thumb up to us. I mean, it was like, they know.
It was crazy. Oh, yeah. It was absolutely one of the most viral events of 2014. Not not just in the motorcycle world, but in national news. I mean, it was on national news. It was on everything. I remember it made traveling with an antique motorcycle very, very hard. I heard many, many stories of people getting pulled over with antique bikes in the back of their truck thinking, hey, is this one of the stolen bikes, and getting harassed.
Are you talking about my story? One other story I'd like to share was when I left John's, we went to the rental, and I rented a Ford F-150, just a truck, to load the bike in and head home. And I'd been gone a month. So I was coming out of Dallas and I was cooking, driving on the expressway. And throughout the day, I never put two and two together. Throughout the day, I'd notice, when you're going to start up an incline and a big rig pulls over going up the hill and blocks your lane. And I'm thinking, I'm fixing to give him your number one finger. And I'm just thinking, why did you do that? And it took forever, and I'd get around, and I think what I thought was they were trying to break my speed, because I was on the road. I was probably running 80, 85, trying to get home. And that happened 3 or 4 times that day. And by the time I got to Arkansas, blue lights hit behind me. And I mean, I was fast. I was driving. He pulls over. He tells me to get out, put my hands up, turn around, my back to him, back toward him. I was like, dude, I was speeding, but come on, He was about to handcuff me, and he was saying that he asked me where I'd been. I said, man, I've been all over the place. I've been for a month traveling. And he goes, were you in Tacoma? And I said, yeah, I was. And he said, yeah, I know you were. And so he thought I'd stole the bike. And he had me hands up, and I said, if you'll give me 2 minutes, I'll take you to the truck. I'll give you a full envelope. I'll show you everything you need to see, and it's my bike. He didn't buy it. He was calling for backup. And so I just begged him. I said, promise you, watch, and I'll walk, and I'll give you everything you want to see. So he let me do it. So then he realized it. He stopped the backup car and realized it really was my bike. He had not heard the news that they'd been found. And he said, do you know what these truckers have been doing to you all day? And I said, yeah, I did, but I didn't know what. He said, they thought they had the bike, and they were holding you back so we could get to you.
Right on.
All right.
Oh, that's funny.
I said, thanks, truckers. Hey, and this policeman, turns out, he was a biker. So after he's all happy and says, man, he's just looking at the bike. He goes, hey, right up the road, there's a Beer Fest bike show going on. He goes, would you pull this bike over there and show it to him? I said, sir, I've been gone a month. I said, I want to get home. He laughed.
David, before we let you go, can you tell us what's behind you about the motors and everything you've got behind you there?
Yeah. Jason's going to want this one. I put this one for Jason. God. See, Jason caught my eyes with the VL that he was riding in 14. That thing was just wicked. And I'm building the bike you just barely see the front of. It's a 36, and I'm building a pretty fancy flathead, and we're going to customize it quite a bit and make it actually it's got a 4-speed transmission. Might not get to be a Cannonball bike, but we put a 4-speed ratchet behind it. And so this is 80 cubic inch, got stroke flywheels. And look at these.
Oh, look at that.
Look at them. Look at
That's
them.
pretty radical.
Are those line Webbers?
No, Paul Friedman.
Freebus.
He did them.
Yeah.
And
nice.
And so that'll go on the 36 that it's been on the stand for many years. The Cannonball keeps throwing me way off track. And but the 19 is ready. I'll probably already have about 450 miles on it. In fact, it really found its legs Sunday. A friend of mine followed me on a trike, and we did 152 miles in 4 hours. And it was it's the same bike. It just is going to be a little prettier.
Well, you and I had a conversation last week about something to do with the timing. What did you find out? Because I'm curious.
All right, no, here's the thing, Rob. After talking to you, I timed it a tooth off. I was right, but the bike wasn't broke in yet, and I was getting a little too anxious, and I was second guessing myself. So after talking to you, I pulled it back a tooth. It pulled the temperatures down, but then it was a little flat. So it turned out I was really right the first time. But
so your rings weren't seated, basically.
They really weren't seated, and the bike wasn't performing like I thought it should be.
And now your timer stops where it's supposed to stop.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, good. All right. So you got your timer all squared away. You're in time, and the bike's running like a champ.
Yeah. So I'm going to get somewhere 800 to 1,000 miles on it and get it. But it's ready to go.
And what's the motor behind you on the bench?
Oh, we got to have the final ending story.
Yeah. Did you send us the picture? Did you send us the picture of that?
I did.
Do we have that of you?
When it was shipped back to me, this motor this motor was stolen, and 4 years later, after the 14 Cannonball in 2018, FBI agents called John Newman and myself, and they found an abandoned home that had a bunch of junk in it, and it had these two motors in the house. And they ran the serial numbers and tracked them back to Cannonball, called John and I, and we got them back. And so that's the day that it was shipped back to me, 4 years later.
That's so awesome.
And Rob, you know what a J motor's worth. That was just a gift.
They're going for about $60,000 these days, right, Jason?
Priceless.
Everybody wants a JD motor.
Man, that was a happy blessing to end the story, because I'd really, there's so many times I'd go to a tool drawer and I'd pull it open, and I was like, where's that special J? Oh, it got stolen. That happened a lot.
Yeah, that's the worst.
That hurts almost as much as losing the bike, right? To have those special tools and then not have them again, You
have to get them somehow, figure out. We lost a lot of stuff. It was a dark chapter, but man, you can't live with that. You got to move on.
Absolutely.
You can't write a happier ending though than actually getting that stuff back.
That's right. That's right.
What would be killer is to actually see that motor back in service, competing on a Cannonball coming up,
And know that was one that was hid for 4 years. I think John might have the one that he got back. He might have it running in a bike. That one's all the parts to put together. But you guys threw a curve on me, because I wanted to have a spare motor, put miles on it, and have it. And if anything went wrong, swap the motor and keep going. And then I learned about the 50-point penalty if you change serial numbers. So my game changed then, and so I made everything from that motor fit that motor. Never needed it.
Nope. Yeah, and you shouldn't need it. I mean,
that's right. That's right.
So
I'm gonna be a little lighter this year, but I'm excited to rejoin with Buck and Mike.
I think you'll have a good time.
That's always exciting. That's always exciting to be with Mike and Buck. And you'll have a lot of laughs.
We had a heavy team in 14. We were a pretty heavy team in 14.
Yeah, well, you had 6 riders, right?
8.
8 riders.
And the mobile machine shop.
And a machine shop. Mike loves to say we had the biggest effing team in the whole Cannonball.
That would be, for those of you who don't know, that would be the good-looking Texan GLT Mike Carson, and we hope to have him and Buck on pretty soon.
Yeah,
so
they would love to jump in.
Well, Buck has been traveling a lot lately with his personal life, so hopefully we can nail him down and get him on the show.
Robbie, we could just have their girlfriends on.
Yeah, we should just get Teresa and Nikki on and let them talk about him.
Exactly.
What do you think? Yeah,
I think it'd probably be a better show anyway.
Well, the visual would be a lot better. I know that. That's for sure.
Hey, Rob, is Mike still on?
Yes.
I wanted to let Mike know. I wanted to let Mike know that my favorite picture of the whole Cannonball is the barn with Thomas and I. That is my favorite.
Cool. I like that shot where you're coming around. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. You shot a lot of shots, but you caught that barn, and that's the one.
Yeah, there's a couple of them with the barn in it. Love it. Thank you very much. Thanks, David.
Yeah.
Cool.
Looking forward to riding again.
David, thanks for joining us tonight. It was great to talk to you again. And you'll come back and join us, I hope, at a later date here.
Maybe. Let's do it.
Heck yeah.
There's a lot of great people to talk to, so you got a long line.
Yeah, well, we'll get you back here at some point soon, I hope.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you in a
And
couple
good luck.
of weeks.
Okay.
So that about does it for tonight, I would think, other than saying thanks to our sponsors. Jason, you have some Cannonball stuff that's for sale on the website. Tell us a few things about that.
Really excited. We're probably by the end of this week, the weekend, I've got a exciting new product that I've been working on for about 2 years. They're throwing a picture up there. I actually producing my own line of wool sweaters now, wool racing sweaters, 100% wool, hand stitched. Like I said, been about 2 years in the making. Turned out really, really great. We're ready to put them out there on the market. So be watching the website here and social media to figure out how you can get them. So what do we got for next week?
Well, next week, we have a couple of special guests whose names escape me right now because I've been looking further down the line than next week. So do you have any insight into what's going on?
I do. I may actually have a special guest here joining me in the studio. We'll kind of actually, you know what? Let's not give out who's going to be here because let's just make it a surprise. But I could have somebody sitting right here next to me next week, and then we'll have another guest probably call in. So
I heard it's going to be pretty crazy, though, from what I've been told.
I think so.
I think this person is known to be a little bit crazy.
Oh my God, are Rinkers coming back?
Almost as good as the Rinkers.
Almost
if
as
not
good.
better.
Exactly. So we'll see how it plays out. If not, we'll get them online. Hoping to have them here with me personally.
And if anybody is interested in sponsorship or being on the logo roll, we have a whole range of different priced ads, some from very affordable to actually sponsoring, you'll see up top here, to sponsoring the studio. And we're coming to you from the Retro Cycle studio, but that space is available to have your logo on for the whole show. So please hit us up for the rate card. We'd be glad to send you the information and get your name up here in lights on Motorcycle Cannonball Chronicles. Michael, you will be at
What do you mean?
Sturgis?
That's the plan. I'm setting up the exhibition in just a few weeks, heading up there.
Okay, fantastic.
So this is I'm going to put a plug in for Michael because the other night on Shop Talk, he did an amazing show with four of the builders from the Sturgis deal this year. And like, man, I'm super excited. I'm super excited about what you're doing with this year, man.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
And we're excited to say that Michael, as much as he is available, will be joining us for the duration of the show from here on in. So, Michael, you've always been a part of the Cannonball team, and now you're part of the Motorcycle Cannonball Chronicles team, and we really love having you aboard.
Thanks very much, guys. I'll be back in the sidecar next week.
All right, man. Back. That's cool. That's cool. I'm going to make you a special lower third with Michael Lichter in the sidecar.
That's right. We need that. We need that. Hey, we haven't had a shot of the studio tonight, Chris. Can you just give us a wave or something like that?
No, because the studio's a disaster. No, listen, I love you guys and I love being here. I love this show. The studio is a complete disaster. We're actually getting ready to upfit the Sprinter van for a whole mobile studio. So we have a new rack in, and like we have this whole place tore apart. I've been scrambling, and poor Heather has to put up with my mess down here. There's audio cables everywhere. Yeah, and I need more coffee. I need more coffee.
Now,
I'm wondering, maybe Chris is just reporting in the raw.
Yeah, no.
I think Chris has no clothes on from the shirt down is what it is, I think, and the camera's tilted down tonight. Hey,
look, I'll show you guys. This has been my nightmare this week. So in this lower spot, we have from California a brand new computer system coming that's a rack mount computer, and everything for the show will now fit in one giant rack. But, getting all of that stuff to work right so that it can all go in the truck and fly around with us it's been a challenge. So the studio is a disaster.
Well, on an up note, you have a special announcement coming up Sunday night, I believe, on Shop Talk, which I don't want to reveal it yet, but for anybody interested, there's a new show coming to Source Media, and it will air next Tuesday night, God willing.
I kind of think we don't have anything to roll or anything, but I think this is the perfect place to talk about it. I really do.
I agree.
You want to let the cat out of the bag here?
Absolutely.
We have a very special announcement.
Yep. Go ahead, Rob.
Go ahead, Chris. No, you do it.
We have the extreme pleasure to be the production crew to help bring a brand new show for the motorcycle community in the Coast to Coast Life with the Motorcycle featuring Chris Simmons. So it's what she has planned for this show is going to be killer. It's going to be some women in motorcycling, some history of motorcycling, some motorcycle music, and if you've followed her throughout her career and and everything she's done in motorcycling, it'll be a real treat, man, because it's cool to go on along the ride with those stories with her.
Absolutely.
And that show is called
Coast to Coast Life with the Motorcycle.
Chris being a writer, I'll tell you, I've seen the lineup for upcoming shows, and it reads like a book. Each chapter sounds fantastic, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this is going to develop.
So the first show in particular is next Tuesday, and it is a monumental show because there's a particular thing about it that I'm not going to say until we have the whole thing together and the promo going up.
Well, I will say this, Chris. There's a motorcycle celebrity, and there's a movie celebrity, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So you do not want to miss this show.
Right on.
It'd be like missing the show with Jay Leno when the ace fell on him.
Oh my God, dude! That's still. Every time I look at one of the screenshots from that show, I just sit there and cringe because I'm like, how did that even happen? And the worst thing is, I had a giant pep talk with the whole team, and I'm like, okay, look, this is probably the most important show we've ever done. Everybody on their best behavior. 2 minutes in, we're all standing there, mouths wide open, like, what do we do?
So I talked to Jay just before the show just to touch base with him, and his first question was, so did everybody laugh? Did they get a good laugh out of that? Because that was pretty funny, wasn't it?
Hey, but seriously, how about what a pro? What a pro. The dude just hopped back up and said, hey, let's talk about
For those
bikes.
of you who missed it, type in Shop Talk Jay Leno on YouTube, and you're going to see a great interview with a great guy who's a real person and a motorhead and a real historian about motorcycles. It's on YouTube now. Shop Talk Jay Leno. Check it out.
And I'm pretty sure he owns every single Bruff Superior ever made on the planet.
Well,
we saw
it's a
all
big
of
collection.
That's a collection.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, Robbie, I'm out of beer.
And I'm out of stuff to talk about, if you can believe that. I got my vitamin water.
All right. We'll see everybody next week. Thanks again for tuning in to Motorcycle Cannonball Chronicles. I'm Jason Sims, along with my buddy Rob Nussbaum. In the sidecar, Michael Lichter. We'll see you next Wednesday, right here. Same place, same channel, same everything. See you later.
Hump day.
Hump day.